Somewhere in your childhood, you probably heard this sentence: "You're too sensitive." Maybe it was said when you cried, when you took something to heart, when you noticed something others didn't. At first, it sounded like a small comment, almost harmless. But if you heard it often enough, it started to feel like a verdict, like something inside you was wrong. And here's the strange part. Many of the people who were called too sensitive as kids grow up becoming the quiet overthinkers, the ones who analyze every conversation, the ones who apologize too quickly, the ones who feel things deeply, but rarely show it anymore. The question is, why? Because what looks like sensitivity on the surface often hides a much deeper story underneath. Imagine a child sitting in a living room. Maybe they're 5, maybe 8. Someone raises their voice in the house. Maybe it's an argument between adults. Maybe it's just frustration after a long day. The child feels it immediately. The tension in the room, the sharp tone in someone's voice, the shift in the atmosphere. Their chest tightens. Their eyes start to water. They don't fully understand what's happening, but they feel it, so they react. Maybe they cry. Maybe they ask if everything is okay. Maybe they become quiet and anxious, and that's when the adult says it. Why are you crying? You're too sensitive. Or, stop being dramatic. Or, it's not a big deal. And just like that, something subtle happens inside the child's mind. Not all at once, but slowly. They begin learning a quiet lesson. Your feelings are too much. Your reactions are wrong. Your emotional radar is a problem. So the child starts doing something children are incredibly good at: adapting. But here's what most people misunderstand about sensitive kids. They're not just emotional, they're perceptive. They notice small changes in tone. They feel the mood in a room instantly. They pick up on things other people ignore. It's almost like their emotional antenna is turned up, higher than everyone else's. But when a child is constantly told that this sensitivity is too much, they don't suddenly become less sensitive. They simply start hiding it. And that's where the hidden trauma begins. Not because the child felt too much, but because they were taught their feelings were unacceptable. Pause for a moment and think about this. When you were upset as a child, what usually happened? Did someone help you understand what you were feeling, or did someone try to shut the feeling down? For many people, it was the second, because adults are often uncomfortable with emotions they don't know how to handle. So instead of guiding the child through the feeling, they dismiss it. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You're making a big deal out of nothing, and the child begins to believe something dangerous. My emotions are wrong, so they begin rewriting their behavior. They cry less in front of people. They hide their reactions. They become more careful. But inside, the sensitivity never disappears. It simply turns inward. This is why many adults who were called too sensitive as kids grow up becoming intense overthinkers. Because if expressing emotion was criticized, the brain finds another way to process it. It analyzes, it replays conversations, it studies people's tone, it tries to predict problems before they happen. In a strange way, overthinking becomes emotional self-protection. If I understand everything, maybe I won't get hurt. If I anticipate reactions, maybe I won't be told I'm wrong again. But this constant mental scanning can become exhausting, and many people don't realize where it started. Take a moment and think about someone who apologizes a lot, even when they didn't do anything. Wrong. Sorry. Sorry for bothering you. Sorry if that sounded weird. Sometimes this habit doesn't come from politeness. It comes from growing up feeling like your emotions were inconvenient. So you begin shrinking yourself. You soften your voice. You minimize your reactions. You become the easy person, the one who doesn't make things difficult. But underneath that calm exterior, there's often a mind working overtime. Another example is people who feel responsible for the emotional atmosphere around them. If someone in the room is upset, they feel it immediately, and suddenly they feel the need to fix it, to calm things down, to make sure no one is uncomfortable. This isn't random. Many too sensitive kids grew up in environments where emotional tension felt overwhelming, so they developed a survival skill: reading people, understanding moods, anticipating reactions. What started as sensitivity slowly became emotional hyper-awareness. Here's the twist. Most people never realize the trait that was criticized in childhood is often the same trait that makes someone deeply compassionate as an adult. Sensitive people tend to notice when others are struggling. They listen more carefully. They care more deeply. They pick up on emotions that others miss. In many ways, sensitivity is not weakness. It's emotional intelligence in its rawest form, but when it's constantly dismissed early in life, the person begins to see it as a flaw instead of a strength, so they live with a strange contradiction. They feel deeply, but they don't trust those feelings. They notice everything, but they second-guess their reactions. They want to express themselves honestly, but a quiet voice in their mind says, "Don't be too much." And that voice usually isn't theirs. It's an echo from years ago. Now pause for a moment. Think about a time when someone told you that you were too sensitive. What were you feeling in that moment? Were you actually overreacting, or were you simply reacting to something real that others chose to ignore? Sometimes sensitivity isn't the problem. Sometimes it's the signal. A signal that something mattered. A signal that something hurt. A signal that something inside you needed. Understanding, not dismissal. The truth is, sensitive children often grow into very self-aware adults. But the journey there can be confusing because they spend years trying to suppress the very thing that makes them human. They learn to filter themselves, to monitor their reactions, to stay composed even when emotions run deep. And eventually they become people who seem calm on the outside, while carrying entire emotional worlds inside their minds. But here's something important to remember. Being sensitive was never the real problem. The problem was growing up in spaces where sensitivity wasn't understood, where emotional depth was mistaken for weakness, where vulnerability was seen as inconvenience. Because in the right environment, sensitivity doesn't break people. It connects them. It helps them understand others. It allows them to care in ways that many people struggle to do, and once someone begins to realize this, something slowly changes. The label that once felt like an insult begins to lose its power. You're too sensitive. Maybe it was never an accusation. Maybe it was simply a misunderstanding. Because sometimes the people who feel the most deeply are also the ones who understand the world the most clearly. And what once felt like a flaw might actually be the quiet strength that was there all along.